The Flyin Lion says,
Boys, hell is real.
2023 Supporter Shield champs.
So glad that I can be back with people who know that it's a Flyin Lion.
It shows how much we all love this club.
Yeah, just a fan of the sport, you know.
It's definitely tougher to be an academy player than it is a pro.
Soccer is my favorite sport now.
Jersey swap.
Car of the week, trivia question of the week.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Flyin Lion podcast. What a week for FC Cincinnati. First week of the season, 2 wins. Couldn't be more happy than 2 wins in the first 2 games. Sam, how we feeling?
Yeah, feeling great, dude. FC Cincinnati is here. 2025 season is here. Wow. I mean, this past week we got 2 games in a week, which is great. Maybe not for the players and their fitness, but I mean, great for the fans to have soccer back. Get a nice little away match in Honduras and then a nice little home match in the cold. But like you said, 6 points total there out of the week. Nothing better.
Yeah, I know we'll get into it, but especially with all the moving pieces, the crazy offseason, to actually have, these real games and these real competitions and to have the wins that we did, against obviously, down in Honduras, a little bit tougher with the travel, not as good of a team, but coming back home and winning against a pretty solid Red Bulls team. Pretty good week. So we'll get into the recap of CONCACAF Champions Cup for the first part of the episode. We will do a match day 1 review as well. We'll have another trivia question for you guys. Second part of the episode, we will talk a little bit about some moving roster pieces, some renewed contracts, and then we will give you a preview for the week to come, which is more Champions Cup and more MLS play.
Well, Ryan, we've got jersey swaps and cards back too.
That's true. So again, thanks to those who haven't tuned into any of our episodes, but we will do jersey swaps of the week, cards of the week as well. So you'll get to kind of get used to that if you haven't heard those already. But let's dive into the CONCACAF Champions Cup, the first round for FC Cincinnati. They had a 4-1 win, Sam, down in Honduras, like you mentioned. Pitch wasn't as much of an issue as we thought. Like I know we talked about it last episode. The atmosphere was kind of cool. We saw it after the 4th goal. There were some fireworks, around the stadium as well, which we don't always get to see like during the game. And then I really loved, I don't know if you saw this, I loved the team coming out of the locker room from the ground. I think there's just something cool about that.
I saw that pre-match. I believe Anunga was going down underneath. That was interesting. Right. I mean, they have a track right around the field there. So it's in the infield, like you're coming it. Yeah. I thought that was really interesting. The locker rooms taking that, do you think that they created that because of safety?
Maybe like a quick exit, you mean? And so
well, I'm talking that or exit or entrance, because, maybe from the stands, right? Instead of coming out of the middle, usually of the stands, it makes it a little bit safer for the players. Because it did have fencing all the way up.
CONCACAF is going to CONCACAF. If there's something that you can point out in these stadiums, like every time, like there's one in Costa Rica where there's a tree behind the goal, and then you have like Monterrey and the mountains, and then you have like the tunnels down into the locker room from the field. Like there's always something, and I'm here for it. I mean, Sam, I think we'll get into it later with what your card is, but that's another one as well. So
yeah.
Motagua's got a pretty cool stadium down there. The players, I'm sure, had some good stories, but the lineup that we put out was a solid one. We had Roman Celentano, we had Lucas Engel making his official debut, Alvis Powell in the back, Miles Robinson, Noah Adnan gets the start. Comes straight from college undrafted to the starting lineup for FC Cincinnati game 1, which is quite the story. I would love a 30 for 30 on that. DeAndre Yedlin, Pavel Buka, Wobodo, Kubo, Baird, and Denkey. Sam, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, initial thoughts. Obviously, you're looking at the back there. We weren't really, sure who we would see if, Hadebe was going to be fit enough for a start. We ended up seeing him come in the second half eventually, but that lineup, seeing Corey Baird up top is a little interesting. But once again, like who else is healthy in that forward position? Somebody that has experience, right? That has played in big time matches for tournaments. So that made sense. So as far as availability, all the people in the lineup, it made sense. As far as Noah Adnan, I mean, you're not wrong. 30 for 30, like guy goes undrafted, and then starts his very first game as a member of FC Cincinnati with the first team. So, I mean, great experience for him. Could have played a little bit better game, as we'll talk about later, but lineup was definitely interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And like, especially for him, starting in front of like Brian Schaefer, who had heard so much about in preseason, who was an FCC, two guy mainly last year. It was interesting that they felt like, hey, this guy earned the spot, even
Yeah.
over some other pieces. So definitely interesting with that. 7 debuts total for FC Cincinnati. So coming off the bench, you had Gilberto Gilberto Flores, I should say, Evander, Stefan Sharilla, and Anunga. They all made the sub appearances, but a lot of debuts, a lot of new pieces. I think there's several people that, I was talking to watching the game. They're like, all right, so who's that? What's this guy's number? That's the first several games of the year is who's the new numbers? Who's the new players? Who do I need to watch?
Well,
So
it was a little
interesting.
harder too because first match you wear the paint jerseys and you can't see the numbers, so it was
That's
a
true.
little tougher too.
Well, and we were worried about the cameras. There's this report that comes out ahead of time out of Honduras that they were worried about the cameras for the match. And,
Mhm.
luckily they figured it out. One big omission, Sam, I'll touch on it a little bit, was not having Luca Orishano down there. There is
Yeah.
all this talk about if we would see him or not. It was a coach's decision that he did not travel. Then, like days later after the match, then he suddenly has a leg injury. We did get some news on him, so we'll touch on that later. But one big omission from the squad, but ultimately didn't seem to matter. 28th minute, we started out, I would say fairly hot. The first 20, 25 minutes, we get rewarded with a nice goal from Pavel Buka.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was a nice, I mean, finish. Kubo kind of has the first attempt there, and it's blocked and just falls into the lap of Buka. And Ryan, he squares this away so well,
Left footed.
fading away on the left foot, puts it in the top left corner. Just a phenomenal strike and way to start the year. I love the celebration too that he had. It was kind of just a big old sniff, right? Kind of like I'm here moment. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like a scrappy goal in a way, so his celebration kind of echoed that, especially if he was pointed towards the supporters of Matagua. Like, I think that would have been,
Maybe they were chirping. Yeah.
yeah, that would have been pretty cool to kind of see the reverse angle. But unfortunately, the 41st minute, they get a goal. Matagua gets an equalizer. I think Pat Noonan had talked in his pregame conference about they love serving these balls into the box, and their Argentinian striker love to get on the finish of this. And in this moment, this guy was just more physical. He's a professional, and we had a guy that was coming out of college, and he won his one-on-one battle with Noah Adnan, marking him. And I think you put in here Adnan didn't jump. I think he was trying to just hold anything onto the guy, to tussle him down.
Yeah.
Uh, but that guy gets the better of it. Awesome finish, honestly, with his
It
head. Like,
was. It was an
perfect
impressive
finish.
finish for sure.
Big
I think
moment from where he was.
from Adnan's perspective, I think you got to see ball and man,
Yeah.
right? And he was just trying to track the man. That's honestly what he was just trying to do. He probably didn't see the ball till late. So Salentano didn't really have much of a chance on that one.
Yeah, no, I agree. And first half was, I mean, the first half of the first game of the season. Like, let's be honest, like a lot of talent on the field, but just a lot of like everyone figuring out where everyone
New
is,
people. Yeah.
trying to connect the dots with. I mean, Roman has 3 saves in the first half, and honestly, kind of saves what could have been even worse.
Yeah.
But
Engel
we
had
had
one
some
off the
chances
line
too.
too. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, kind of nervy a little bit. Didn't feel like fantastic, especially being tied at that point. But it's CONCACAF Champions Cup. You're playing in Honduras. It's tough. But I think Denkey came out of half and was just ready to go. 49th minute, Angle puts a ball in towards, I believe in the box. I think it was to Denkey.
Hmm.
Takes one touch on his left, kind of turns his body at the same time, puts it back on his right foot and slots it away. And you're like, the guy had 3 touches in the box before the defender could even like put a foot close to him. So, I mean, just the skill for what he could do in that moment just shows you his class, his quality compared to maybe a little bit less of an opponent. But that's what you want out of your striker. It doesn't matter who you're playing. The guy's got to score goals, and he did.
Yeah, it was almost like, like you said, you hold down a video, right? If you're, on TikTok or if you're editing a video, like it's almost like you turned up like 2 times, 5 times the speed with him dribbling,
Yeah.
and the opponent's just sitting there like hasn't moved at all, right? But yeah, phenomenal finish. Denke showing what he can do with his footwork and composure to be able to put that away, make it 2-1.
Watching it live, I mean, you saw some like preseason snippets here and there, of him scoring these goals, but to actually watch it, I was just like in awe of, even down on their field, away from home, not even used to the squad. Like he had some pretty dang good touches, some good hold up play in the match, and then yeah, gets rewarded. And again, as a striker, that's what you want. As a team, that invested this money, that's what you want too. So definitely a good moment to see. And then 77th minute, Pavel Buka gets another goal, Sam.
Yeah, Evander finds Buka for this one, gets his first assist, but Buka is able to receive the pass and curls a nice composed finish into the back of the net. Now he's got 2 goals in the game. This whole preseason we've been talking about Buka. This is the season. Buka, Buka, Buka. And 2 goals, first game. He's just on fire. And nice to see Evander kind of getting acquainted with the squad. Obviously, chemistry is already kind of there. Knowing, hey, Buka's right there, top of the box right there. Slots it away.
First thing I thought of, I'm not gonna lie, like Evander's very like selfless in this play,
absolutely.
and just like looks for his teammates, looks how to like set people up. We get a press conference later in the week from him and Denke saying like, "Bro, I know you want to score goals. I'll assist you."
No
and
problem.
like just comes out and says it like, "I don't care, like whatever way I can contribute."
Unfortunately, with that, like I know during that broadcast, and we'll touch on the MLS game, he kept getting compared with
the
Lucho, right?
So
and it sucks,
this is
but
exactly what I was gonna bring up. Was in that moment, I was just thinking about how like Lucho would have just shot that ball or taken on the guy. And you see Evander just slot it to him. I mean, how many times did you see Lucho to Buka last year? Probably hardly ever.
yeah.
So the big question over the past, several weeks, or I mean, even just this week from what we saw, was Lucho holding Buka back?
I mean, you could argue that he was holding everybody on the team back, right? Like for as good as Lucho is, right? Phenomenal player, right? You have to rely on him to create those plays to be that player, right? With other players like Evander, a guy who's like, hey, I don't care as long as I'm contributing to the team. I don't care how I'm doing it. I just want to win, right? So I feel
Just
like
got
it's
to
a
see
different
it more in
mentality.
a person. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think he at sometimes just would try to take over too much when
Yeah.
moments weren't going right, and maybe we do see that from Evander too to try to make things happen. But it was just something that I had noticed. It was interesting. So at that point, we're up 3-1. As we had mentioned, Evander had come into the game. I think we had some other subs at that point as well. 87th minute though, I mean, I'm watching this and you see Powell just kind of loft this ball up to the center of the pitch, just hoping for somebody to get onto it. And Evander just with an acrobatic finish, just brilliant to take it out of the air on the volley, kind of sky it up towards the top and back down. I mean, that was nice. There was no one there around him, but
No.
that's a credit to Denke. Denke took both the center backs, if you go back and watch this play, because they were so concerned about where he was. It freed up Evander, which I think honestly all year is what you're going to see a lot of, especially when you have Orishano in there. You're going to have to look at where's Denke? Where's Denke? Look at how the Red Bulls try to play him.
Well,
And
just
looking
yeah,
for, Orishano. Where's
I think
Orishano? Where's Evander? Like you have to keep track of all these guys.
you're looking at what could possibly happen, right? If you take that moment from Powell, right? Say Powell's still the guy that has the ball, or it's Engel, right? In that case, I'd love for it to be Engel because he plays the balls better. But let's say it's Engel. In the future, Ryan, you're talking about having Denke being able to make a near post run,
Yeah.
Evander in the middle, and an Orishano far post run.
Scary. Yeah.
What are you gonna do? What are you
Yeah.
gonna do?
As long as it's not Yedlin on the back post. I'm just kidding. He was in the right position. He just got to get more of the ball. In the Red Bulls game, we saw that. But yeah, I like that point. So we end up winning, 4-1. We go into a second leg here coming up at home. We'll preview that later on. But feeling pretty solid about it, honestly, with a short leadway for Evander to get integrated to the squad. I mean, what a match for him. A goal and an assist in your debut. Denkey with a goal in his debut. Buka's second career brace for FC Cincinnati, the last one against DC United last year. 7 players again made their debut. So, I mean, a huge match. And like how many times before where we would kind of squeak out games in this setting where the opponent is less and we just go in and just dominate a match. And I kind of love to see in the second half, like the quality. So it was fun one to watch. I think everyone enjoyed staying up to kind of see that, especially being first game of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those like asking, people, hey, you gotta stay up for it. You gotta stay up for this one. Which once again, definitely worth it. Coming away with a big win to start the year, and hopefully we'll be able to, continue that in the second leg, like you said.
Yeah, and it built momentum for match day one. So New York Red Bulls, we played this past Saturday at home. A lot going on with this, being 10-year anniversary and the patches that were available, which if you wanted them, I'm sorry. I think they're sold out the first one at least, but there's going to be 9 other ones hopefully to get your hands on. Hopefully the club puts out more of the first ones too, because I think a lot of people want them. But a lot going on with that. In relation to that, Sam, John Harkes gets the sword pull. I think we had kind of gone for the local celebrities and the Bengals players and the this and that, but why didn't we think of Harksey? I don't know. Maybe because the relationship he had with the club and how things were left with the front office, especially. But yeah, nice to see both sides coming together and make this happen. Harkes had kind of a nice sword pull there, good moment. I think good reaction from the crowd. Our first coach, in FC Cincinnati history. So I think it was a nice touch to him.
Yeah, obviously it meant something to him to come back. We saw pre-match him, posting videos on social media of, him on the airplane in the airport. It shows him it's CVG. So obviously he was excited about this, and so was the club. It was kind of time to mend, wounds that were there. If none of go back research this because it was a little bit of a bad breakup. But yeah, it was nice to see, John lift the sword and, like you said, to kick off the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, I think so. And for the year that we have to come, there's going to be a lot more celebrations. So stay tuned to that. But being, the time that this game was, during the day it was a little bit warmer, but at night, Sam, it was 30 degrees at kickoff. So coldest home match in FC Cincinnati history. Props to the 22,000 that, showed up and supported the orange and blue. We had a pretty sick tifo by the Forge that they put together. So let the Wild Rumpus start from where the wild things are from the book. So pretty cool with that. Moving banner in the back, multiple flags for a cool effect. I mean, A+ by them. I think
Always
they
love the
killed it again.
flags. Always love the flags.
They killed it with the smoke this year with at least the first one. I think that was pretty cool. I don't know if people had seen this or not, so go back and watch this if you didn't, but apparently there was a worker that was working on one of the fireworks. The pyrotechnic bill has got to be huge this year, but
it continues to grow year after year.
Every year. But this guy's on the field setting up for the fireworks, and the firework goes off and hits him in the chest. And it's a scary moment, but he just gets smoked by the fireworks. So a lot of people were asking about it after. I think the guy's okay. Maybe he's listening to this episode, but that was kind of a scary moment to see happen. But yeah, more to come with that. I'm sure they have, again, just a lot going on with the 10-year anniversary and everything. But yeah, I thought the atmosphere was great, especially for how cold it was, like we mentioned. But the players just enjoyed being at home and kind of, I would say, went off of that. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, first half we saw kind of a back and forth. Both teams, I think we saw Red Bulls have better chances than FC Cincinnati in that first half, but it was, I would say, even, right? Even playing.
Yeah, I mean, you have the lineup. First off, Celentano, Engel, Teenage Hidebe comes back and starts. Robinson captains for us. Gilberto Flores, Yedlin, Buka, Wobodo, Kubo, Evander, and Denkey, right? So pretty much what you would think without Orishano and Miazga. Robinson captains again. Yet to kind of figure out who is the dominant captain, but I think if it's Robinson, like he did a decent job in this match and gets rewarded for team of the week. But yeah, Sam, I think the first 20 minutes I got excited because it's so free flowing of a team this year.
Yeah.
The ball's whipping around. There's different ideas in the front line. Red Bull adjusted about 20 minutes into the game, dropped back one of their defensive midfielders, and honestly pressed us a little bit higher and caused some mistakes. I honestly felt like it was a smart idea for them, especially with all the new pieces. How are we going to progress the ball from the back? And there was a lot of pressing moments that created these unfortunate turnovers and chances. I believe you had Maxim Choupo-Moting had a back heel even, on Celentano that he makes.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good attempt. It reminded me of the Balotelli, like turn around and
Where you
heel
like
it.
completely misses. Yeah.
Yeah. But this moment, like it definitely could have been, one of, there was another one. I think the ball was kind of whipped around several times, hit off the crossbar. The guy was offside. There was maybe a shout for a PK as well. Looking back on it, like definitely the Yedlin play was more of a PK than this one. But yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, it was back and forth. I would say 50-50 for the first half.
Yeah, I would say also, I think Carter, mentioned it in one of his tweets, but for all those people out there, Portland fans or whatever, that were telling us, oh yeah, Evander doesn't, press, he doesn't, track back.
Dude, he did.
Dude, he did really well during that, I guess, when we had, time to press
Good shout.
during that first 30 minutes. He was on the ball. He was able to turn it over a couple times, create chances. And it just happened that nobody was in the box to be able to be on the end of those.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. And his press was good, but then in those moments, the composure on the ball, like you saw 2-3 guys on him and he megs one of them, goes around the other, and then plays a beautiful ball over to Yedlin on the back post. Like just to, get out of that situation. A lot of people would do that and then just kind of kick the ball to their teammate. But then he does that and plays a beautiful ball that creates an almost goal scoring opportunity. He has another one, I think, later on in the match where you see that too. Megs another guy and then creates and gets a free kick out of it. So the quality's there. There's definitely the Brazilian flair, that you're seeing out of him. But the composure on the ball, like I said, the comfortability, even with people on him, like we just haven't seen a lot of guys that are comfortable with that and strong enough to hold him off. And I was very impressed with Evander for that. Created some decent chances too. As we get to the second half, I think that we came out decent. It wasn't anything like special.
No,
I think there was moments where we kind of lulled in our ideas. And that just comes with, honestly, trying to create chemistry and togetherness. The one we referenced early on in the episode was Engel plays a beautiful one-touch ball into the box that Kubo almost gets his foot on that I think Yedlin should have probably scored. And you see probably, 2-3 moments, Sam, in the second half where we could have taken the lead before we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Very similar. And unfortunately, it's just guys that, like you said, aren't used to being in positions like that, unfortunately. That were given those opportunities and they just weren't able to finish. So you can only imagine if, it was one of our forwards or, another midfielder that were able to get on the end of that. I feel like it'd be a different story.
Yeah, for sure. And like they just have to be ready. Yedlin's played at the highest of levels and like I don't know, he's been playing more right back before, he's right wing back. Like we need their involvement is what I'm kind of trying to say. Engel to be involved, Yedlin to be involved in the attack. And I think Pat touched on that at the end is like they're in those positions now. They just have to be productive in those positions. And I think they'll get to it. We do see Yedlin play a beautiful ball in the 70th minute, Sam. Something that, they had asked Pat after the match again, is this part of your plan just to lump the ball forward and to score that way? But honestly, Red Bulls was playing such a high line that I think Yedlin even came out and said, like, I want to take this to our advantage. He knew that the ground was harder, so the ball might bounce up. The back spin that he puts on this through ball to him, and then Denkey is going to outmuscle and outrun the defenders. Like you could see it all night. That's a pretty solid center back grouping, like one that went to the MLS Cup finals last year.
Yeah.
And Denkey just was honestly dominant. I felt like he was like pulling defenders in with him, winning one-on-one battles, but has a nice header, honestly, just one-on-one with the keeper and is brave. There's a lot of guys that would have backed out of that. But just honestly, a striker, just
Yeah,
putting anything
absolutely.
on it
And
to score.
like you said, great ball by Yedlin to be able to take advantage of that, get something going. Because I know in that second half, you and I were texting back and forth, and hey, like, where is the service into Denke? Like, what we need to get him more
Yeah,
involved into the game, and there it was, right there. Just that little ball over the top to
they
be
hurt
able
us.
to take advantage, like you said, of the high line. D to me, I thought it was really funny the way he scores the goal. It almost reminded me of like a seal, right? Having like the little like ball, right, that they
No,
put
like
like on
hitting
their
it
nose.
over.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they like hit
yeah.
it with like that's almost like how it looked to me. Finishing over the keeper, obviously great awareness for him to be able to time that right, like let it bounce and then get it over the keeper. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, for sure. And does it right in front of the Bailey. So, I mean,
Oh yeah.
perfect place to do it. So
Perfect
two
photo
goals.
op, everything like
Oh
that for the
yeah,
first goal at home. Yeah.
2 goals in 2 games for him. He makes the team of the match day bench. Like I mentioned earlier, Miles Robinson does get the team of the match day, and we get a 1-0 win. Honestly, like I mentioned, against a good team in Red Bulls. Like a lot of their players from the cup match, I believe, played in this match. Like you don't have Tolkien, you don't have their other striker, but they had a solid new one in there. Besides that, like they played a pretty decent game, I would feel like, and I just feel good about the chances we had, especially with all these new pieces, and having a match, again on Wednesday and then playing Saturday. Like Red Bulls didn't have that, so it was honestly impressive to travel and then do what we did at home, and playing off of our crowd, like we had talked about before, is just creating this fortress environment again.
It was a
Um,
cold one, but people showed
it
out.
was, yeah, they
Yeah.
did, and that's a good start. So now let's build on it and just keep winning matches at home. I think that's important.
Hmm.
Going back to the last episode, Sam, we had talked about the 5 guys scoring in their MLS debuts. Denke became the 6th player in the club history to score in their MLS debut.
So next year, look for that trivia of the week.
Yeah, and then if we want to talk about like initial debuts, outside of even MLS, Evander and him score in that CONCACAF Champions Cup. Do you know the other duo that scored in the first game together?
Oh boy.
We talked
Bre
about it last week.
Brenner and Vasquez?
It was Brenner and Acosta against
Ah, damn.
Nashville. They both scored in there first. So it was kind of like a new era, like we're saying, to have Denke and Evander both do that. It was pretty cool. Love to see Stefan Chirilla get some minutes at the end of the match. So 6 FCC Academy product to make an appearance in an MLS match was pretty cool. And then Saturday was the 19th all-time meeting between FC Cincinnati and New York Red Bulls, our most faced opponent in club history. Like I would have thought it would have been, the Crew or something, but like even I think somebody like nationally had mentioned like, oh yeah, like FC Cincinnati's rival, New York Red Bull, and I'm like, they're one of them, but they're not like the
Yeah.
rival. But we've played each other so much, and what's crazy is this was our first win against Red Bulls at home in MLS play.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter before the game. Somebody had tweeted out like, are they gonna get, their first win at home in MLS play? And I'm thinking, really? Like we haven't, wow. And so I looked back and obviously, we win an Open Cup. And I think what
MLS playoff was the
MLS
one
playoffs
we
as
won at
was
home.
that at
Yeah.
home? Yeah, that was at
Yeah.
home too. Best of 3 series. So we've won at home during those events, but never in, regular season play. So finally getting in the winning column against them at home definitely feels really good.
Yeah, for sure. And to start the year off with 3 points, that's the important thing to do. Pat, had hammered it home is like you got to stack points early on in the season. It just sets the
Mhm.
tone and sets you up for the rest of the year. So definitely excited for that. Sam, you got a good trivia question for us. Let's hear it.
Yeah, based off of the cold weather talk, I thought it would be interesting to bring in that for the trivia of the week here. So prior to Saturday's match breaking the record, what home match held the coldest temperature record in FC Cincinnati history?
I remember this one. It was against Cavalier last year, I believe. Early on in the season, second leg of CONCACAF Champions Cup, the Jamaican side. And I think we won like 3 or 4-0, but that's what I'm going to lock in.
Okay, he's locking it. Do you want to give like a temperature or anything? Like,
34 degrees?
okay, all right. Ryan's locking it in. 34 Cavalier. We'll see.
Hey, FC Cincinnati fans, we are pumped to share our new sponsor, Peak Cocktails.
I'm sipping on the passion fruit margarita, which is so spicy and it makes me feel like I'm on the beach.
Ooh, that sounds great. I'm drinking the Blood Orange Spritz, which has a great subtle ginger flavor coming from its scientifically formulated recipe to promote exercise recovery, enhance relaxation, and support a better night's sleep.
Ryan, that's exactly why I love them. Their cocktails are designed to fit seamlessly into your health conscious lifestyle, giving you the enjoyment of a delicious adult drink without the downsides of alcohol.
Guys, next time you are looking for that post-workout drink or an afternoon pick-me-up, grab a Peak Cocktail. Visit them at www.peakcocktails.com and use the code FLYINLION at checkout to get 20% off your first order. Zach, enjoy your drink.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks again for listening to this episode. Thanks to everyone who tuned in last week. It was our most played episode all time, so definitely appreciate the support. We got a lot of cool content coming out for you guys. For those, again, not familiar, we're going to do our jersey swaps of the week and our cards of the week here. So jersey swap, who we would love to trade jersey with. They just had a great week. And then card of the week, yellow or red card, Sam. You know, for funny moments, some crazy moments, some moments where we're frustrated. You know, we're going to highlight our cards of the week here pretty much every week as much as we can. So, but let's hear your jersey swap.
Yeah, jersey swap of the week for me was easy. Denkey is my jersey swap of the week. What a start to his FC Cincinnati career. Like you said, 2 games, he's got 2 goals. The big outlier for me, Ryan, was 15 touches in the opponent's box in these 2 games, and then almost had an XG of 1, which is pretty impressive considering that the chances that he was able to put in the back of the net. But if anyone around the MLS is still wondering if he's for real or not, or if his Belgian experience wouldn't translate, it's safe to say that I think it will, and he'll be fine. So what a number 9 that we've got.
Dude, we're spoiled. I mean, this guy's special. You can see it now against like the best of the best. And if Red Bulls got, pretty solid defense last year, like he made him look fairly silly. I don't think his touches were as good in the Red Bull game, if I had to be critical of him, as they were against Motagua. But part of it's probably the way that the ball was moving, on the cold pitch.
The pitch.
I'm going to blame it on the pitch.
Maybe.
You mentioned his like 15 touches in the opponent's box, like both goals. He gets, well, obviously his head on one, but in the first one, he gets like 4 touches in the box before he puts it away in like a small space. But this guy's dominant, and just oozes like confidence. Like, and that's what you want as a striker, a team player, after the match, like thanking the fans, loving playing in Cincinnati for the first time. He's everything that you would want. He's the real deal. I'm excited for this year. Like just to have a real striker and just to see what this guy can do. I mean, he's pretty solid.
Yeah, I agree. Who
All
you
right,
got?
so
Who you got? Come on.
I was waiting for you to ask me.
Oh,
My
I'm supposed
jersey
to
swap.
ask you okay, is that what we're
Yeah, that's what we're doing. My jersey swap of the week was Lucas Engel. I thought he had a very impressive 2 games for FC Cincinnati. Down in Honduras, he had a 7.7 match rating and created the most amount of chances in the match with 3. He had the most tackles in the match with 3 as well. He lost the most duels in that match, but made up for it, I think, in the second game. He did have an assist as well in the first one. But against Red Bulls, I thought he was solid. Like the ball I mentioned earlier on in the episode that he played across the box was unbelievable for a first touch. He got us out of a lot of pressure moments too down the sideline when we really needed to kind of clear the lines. In working with 2 different center backs, I think as well, especially on a new team, First match he's next to Powell. Second match, he's next to Hidebe, and does well in both moments. So I think you're only going to see that relationship build with Hidebe, and I think Engel, let go. Let's do it. Did you see the banner?
I did not. No, they
had
put
a
a banner up in the
They
Bailey.
they had a little Lego statue of Engel
That's beautiful.
in the Bailey. It was awesome.
But no doubt he'll probably get his picture taken with that at some point this year. I agree, Ryan. I think Engel is probably the most experienced left back we've ever had, right? I think we are spoiled this season for that because we saw the quality right away. And I don't think we've ever seen that type of quality from the left back position right away like that, right? We saw Barreal have to,
left wing back.
Barreal had to come into his own in the position and become a left wing back. Orishano, obviously, like he could play that, but that's not where he truly wants to be. And Engel, you could see how much of a difference he was making down that side. Like you said, he was able to multiple times during the CONCACAF Champions Cup game or against Red Bulls shutting down the opponent by just a simple tackle. And then here we go. Now he starts the momentum the other way. And I agree. I think this Red Bulls game, I think him and Hidebe together on that side did phenomenal and played a pretty good game.
Yeah, I mean, and I think in both games, well, first game he comes out in the 85th minute, but second game I think he plays all 90. So, for 2 games to come in and to do that and to play the way that he did, very excited about his future, with the club. That's a good point about if we look at the history of it, like we had a lot of guys that were put in that position that weren't as used to it. As I had mentioned before, this guy's played left back, hasn't played a lot of wing back, has some experience playing in forward positions. So you kind of saw both sides of it, but I think we would even be comfortable if we wanted to shift to a back 4 to have Engel do that. Whereas with the prior 2 guys we had had in those positions, I don't think you feel as comfortable with that. And honestly, what we have been calling for is a natural left-footed wingback on that side.
Yeah, to cross it in.
And you could see just like on that play where they played him out wide and he hit it first time left foot in the box. Like what would, I hate to call out like Assad before, but he cut it back on his right. And that allows the defender to, gain that position and
it's predictable. Yeah.
100%. So you saw it at the end of the match, Sam. I mean, he dribbled 3 guys there on the end line. I don't think Denkey even expected it.
It was almost like, he got through.
Yeah. So, I mean, more to come from him. I'm sure it's only going to go up from here, but definitely excited for that. On the flip side, let's hear your card of the week.
Yeah, card of the week. Ryan mentioned it earlier in the podcast, but my card of the week is going to be the plastic chairs for FC Cincinnati bench players. Prior to the match, starting down in Honduras, I stumbled upon an article that stated Managua and Cincinnati will use plastic chairs on improvised benches to comply with CONCACAF, right? And the match itself was in doubt. That's what the article said, due to the compliance issues surrounding, the cameras and surrounding just compliance, right? Just in general. And so CONCACAF had requested these changes be made because, Ryan, they didn't want the television image to show the stands, I guess, that are under construction. And so they usually have the camera on the other side. But they said that if Managua did not comply, they would be fined more than $10,000. So when I was reading this, I'm like, this is the most CONCACAF thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it totally is just like coming out of the field, up into the stadium. But yeah, I saw the plastic chairs and I'm like, man, this is a professional team. Like they don't, I mean, okay, you could have a bench even, not like little plastic chairs.
Yeah.
That was very interesting. I thought it was going to be I thought your card, even prior to these matches happening, was going to be something along the lines of the field or the broadcast or something, but I like it. I respect it.
What do you got for yours?
All right. So mine, I'm going to go to the Apple TV broadcast is going to be my card of the week. It was very interesting. If you guys went back and watched this match, they didn't show the TIFO before the game or even towards the start of the broadcast. They messed up the lineup. They had a lot of the guys in different positions. I think Yedlin was our center striker. And then the first half airs. I was trying to listen to Tommy G. I want to hear my local broadcasters call this game. I wanted to hear their call for the goal. And if you watch the first half, you couldn't switch to listen to them. So this was not only like from our side and our game, like if you go and watch some of the other ones, I think the earlier on match, like it was halftime and they showed FC Cincinnati's logo and all this stuff. Like it was terrible. So that's my first part of it. My second part, if you want to watch this new MLS documentary, like I think what onside or offside, whatever it's called, about the 2024 season in the MLS, you got to have Apple TV to go and watch it. So if you're an MLS season pass member, you don't get it a part of your membership, which like, okay, yeah, go buy Apple TV. I get it. But like the whole documentary is set up for the MLS and you're not even including it in the MLS season pass.
Yeah, I think both of those. Obviously, we've seen in the past couple years that Apple TV has taken over. Just they can't get the lineups right every single time. I mean, there's something off, right? And as far as that documentary, obviously it's great. We're very grateful to have that insight, and we've been, talking with Tommy G. Like everybody loves behind the scenes, right?
Sure.
He had said that, and we agree. Unfortunately, like you said, just give us all of it. We're already paying for, if you're a season ticket holder, right? You get MLS Pass. We're already getting that because we're paying for season tickets. Just give us, the documentary series that you made for us because we're your audience. So, yeah, Apple TV, figure stuff out.
I'm sure they will. I mean, everything else about the broadcast, I love.
Yeah,
Like, I love the
yeah.
quality of, actually like watching it. I love that you can see it in other countries. I love that you can hear a lot of the supporters groups. They put the microphones down by them, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, clean up like the little things, the presentation. Like you had all
Yeah.
off season to get that cleaned up, but we saw it again in the first match. Like that was kind of frustrating. To kind of turn the tables here, Sam, we're going to talk a little bit about some roster updates. A lot of these things happened, right before these matches, and I think they had to have it finalized before the first match of the season against Red Bulls. But we saw a Luca Orishano long-term deal signed, Sam. That was the big question. I mentioned like coach's decision before to not have him travel. He gets his extension as a TAM player through the 2029 season. It's got to be one of the longest contracts we've seen for an FC Cincinnati player. Whether that's to spread out the hit to, the budget. I don't think that's probably what it is, but like he signs for a lot of years. Now, whether or not he's going to stay, I don't know. Does it give us more leverage that he's under contract and not like supposedly under, the 1 year extension? Like that's a thought. But now the likes of Evander, Denkey, or Sean are all contracted through the 2027 season. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, once again, for those people that continue to doubt Chris Albright, the man, he pulls through every single time. And like you said, this deal hours before, we're about to play against Red Bulls. And it was just like a sigh of relief, honestly. Just I think the whole fan base, club, probably Pat and Chris just all right, now we can focus on the season, right? Like, all right, here we go. We're not, no more drama going into the season. This was our last bit of drama because, going into this preseason, if you've been following our podcast, right? Every single episode, here are some new roster updates, right? Hopefully this is the last roster update that we have to, talk about. So that way we could, hey, let's just talk about the games. Let's just, talk about ball, right?
Sure. And I mean, the squad, it's ever changing. Like it's
Yeah,
crazy. You have
yeah,
New York Red
absolutely.
Bulls and you have a potential another player that's rumored in, or you have, I kind of want to get into it. I don't know if you heard this, but Jeff Birding talking about, hey, there might be a consensus top 20 player in the world that's interested in playing in FC Cincinnati. Like it's always evolving. They're always looking to get better. We have one senior roster spot open. So I don't think like it's totally just to all the games, like as much as I would love it to be, but it's kind of exciting that we could even get better. That's to me what is awesome. And part of that is like restructuring Obi's contract, and not having him be a DP in making that roster compliance, through the MLS, but it keeps him, at a TAM level and allows us to have a free DP spot. Now, what was interesting is that the club had came out and said, we want to do a 2 DP 4 U22 structure. So for those who aren't familiar, you have to declare, really 2 DPs 4 U22s or 3 DPs and 3 U22s. That you can change in the summer window if you want to switch it around. And I believe, honestly, that's what we'll end up doing. I was trying to get confirmation of, like, hey, does anyone think this is going to stay? But I'm pretty sure, like, every sense of what our club has been about with ambition, it's DPs and big-time players.
Yeah, I think looking at what Tom Bogert had said, talking about, some other news that we'll touch on here soon, but he was talking about, for now, it looks like until the summer, FC Cincinnati is going to go with, that 4 U22 and 2 DP spot. So, yeah, I think we had been talking about, honestly, restructuring Obi's contract since like last season, right? Yeah. I think that had been like the big talk coming in, even like, I think last summer, right? We were talking about, hey, are we going to restructure even this summer so that way we can bring in, another DP during that summer. So,
go and look at like the roster, Sam, and I don't know if anyone's pointed this out, but like you have Obi, who was brought in as a DP, Kubo, who was brought in as a DP, and then you have like Orishano, who should be a DP, Evander, who's a DP, Denkey, who's a DP. Honestly, like Miazga probably could have been a DP. Like there's so many of those type of players that they're able to get in under that. It's pretty impressive. Like let Chris cook. Like honestly, what have we learned in this offseason is let Chris cook. And
that if you look at just if you're a soccer sicko, right, and you just love gam tam wham bam, if you look at probably the FC Cincinnati budget, you'll just drool based off of Chris's work, just how he's gotten the quality of players he has on the deals.
And like how quick that happens, like that could be the kind of one counter argument of like, okay, but we waited until 3 days before the season to get Evander. It's like, this is the way it went, and these guys are contributing, day one. So we didn't really lose too much. I would argue like kind of just rolled him into it and said, hey, and I think honestly, I remember Pat kind of doing an interview and saying like good players adapt to a team fast. Like good players, like if you go and play a pickup game, like who the best players are. Like they're gonna pick out the other best players, and we have a lot of those on this team. So I'm very excited about that. We had a rumor, Sam, about Brenner, our former striker, DP striker from Brazil, who is with an Italian squad right now, Udinese, that had rumored interest in coming back. I think this all kind of stemmed around what we had seen with the Evander post, and I think Brenner had kind of commented on it and said like something along the lines of like, come on, or like see you soon or something. And I think Evander commented back and was like, oh yeah, let's see it, or something like that, So that kind of was the first part. And then after the Red Bulls match, you get the report from Laurel that we had some early discussions and interest, at least from her side, whether that's agent driven probably, or even from Brenner directly. Like I'm sure like it's not going as well as you would want in Italy. He had some injuries and whatnot, but to come back with a squad where he scored 18 goals, and knows Evander, had some background history. So if you want to go see that, shout out to Sam for finding that. We have that on X. But since within 12 hours, Sam, Tom Bogert
easily just shot down,
denied it and was like, no, this is baseless. And I think it's coming from the club. Like, I think it was directly from the front office who was like, look, like this isn't happening. I'm sorry, but it's not.
Yeah. Tom Bogert came out and immediately said that the club will not entertain bringing Brenner back at all. And it's not in their future plans to do so. So interesting to see kind of both sides. I know we had kind of talked about this was definitely straight from the club, and it could have also just been Tom copy and pasting whatever, Chris or Pat, or probably Chris, whatever Chris sent him, right? Of like, hey, this is how we feel. Go ahead and put it out there, because nothing's going on.
Which, I mean, at least there's a quick resolution. I was dreaming for a solid 12 hours, went and watched some Brenner highlights from his time at FC Cincinnati.
The numbers did real well on that X post for for a while there. So
Yeah.
I think it probably stinted because of the news, but it was good there for a while.
Yeah, they had us going. But honestly, the vibes couldn't be higher, around the first team right now. There's a lot to be excited about, a lot of good chemistry that's being built. Like this locker room just seems like awesome. Everyone's bought in, everyone wants to win, everyone has good resolve, and even in moments where we were struggling or didn't look the best, like we were able to kind of come out of it. And I think that's honestly a good sign for the rest of the season. On the flip side of that, the FC Cincinnati 2 squad had added a few players. We mentioned Noah Adnan did play with the first team. He did sign officially for FCC 2. He did do like a short-term loan with the first team. So I look to see him maybe do that a few times with specific competitions or whatnot. But a former Stanford University defender, he had been with the squad all off season. Seems to have a pretty bright future. I think the club felt pretty highly about him. Didn't have a great game against Motagua, but it's all good. And then Ben Augie was the other one. This guy was selected by FC Cincinnati in the third round, 80th overall in the 2025 MLS Super Draft out of Gonzaga, a midfielder, pretty tall midfielder actually too.
Yeah.
But one of the, I guess, two players that we highlighted here, both of them, I should say, American guys. We had a lot of foreign guys that we brought into the squad, but yeah, another big pieces that are coming into FCC2. Look for them coming up, I believe, to start their season. Do you know exactly when that is?
Yeah, I want to say
March 2nd.
I had tweeted it out. Yeah,
March 2nd against
2nd.
India
At
11.
home. Yeah.
Yep.
At NKU. But nice to finally get these two guys signed. It spent all of preseason with FC Cincinnati, so figured they were going to be FCC2 signings. Like Ryan said, Adnan featured in the Managua game, but he also signed a short-term agreement, which it was nice. I think Carter had put this out. A player can be signed up to 4 times on a short-term agreement and play no more than 2 MLS matches, but can play an unlimited amount of non-league matches within those 4 agreements. So he can play as many Champions Cup, Leagues Cup, Open Cup, like however many, cups he wants. It just has to do with MLS. He's restricted. So I thought that was a nice bit of information. But you had mentioned, both Adnan and Augie being, 2 U.S. guys, 2 guys that came through the college system, one undrafted, one drafted. And, it had me thinking, Ryan, you said, even the FCC2 team brought in a lot of international guys. And I think allowing U.S. born players the opportunity to continue to grow and develop their soccer game, I think is crucial. I think the U.S. Soccer Federation, this is something that they need to look more into, especially for the high school to collegiate game, because in the MLS, you've seen a lot of buying outside the U.S. talent, which is good for the U.S., but is also, it's not too good for the development of soccer in the U.S. as far as U.S. players, because then those internationals are overshadowing the U.S. players, in my opinion. So there's also been that trend in the collegiate game, where talents from overseas take the scholarships that could be given to U.S. players at those colleges. And, if families are spending thousands of dollars on academies training, like you played, in some of those, academies, and the growth and the striving to grow, I think it needs to be rewarded a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the deep dive of U.S. soccer and the way that people progress through the system. Yeah, we'll have a full episode on that if you want. But yeah, no, that's a good point. I think that if you are the best of the best in what you do, you're either going to find your way through the academies and work your way up, like we saw with Kevin Sullivan, or you're going to be identified very early. And like we saw with Christian Pulisic, with Gio Reyna, like you're going to go to those foreign academies, pretty fast and work your way up through Borussia Dortmund and, all of those different systems. But for us to build, what we have with our academy and seeing, with I think Shirilla being the 6th player through the FCC academy to kind of come up through that and to make an MLS appearance, like that's huge. And I think the growth of that is only to come. We have some young guys that even had trained with the squad, even in Florida, as soon as, this preseason. So coming up, that's what I'm looking for. I'm really hoping that we can integrate that because you're right. Honestly, it's cheaper, if you can retain your own. And if you get some good production out of those guys, like we've seen with the Seattles of the world, with the Phillies of the world, with the FC Dallas, then you can really have a lot of flexibility. And I think we're starting to see that we didn't see as much in the first several seasons. It's where do we find the time for these guys is the question, is because our teamers are so talented now. But to be able to see Sharilla get some minutes, even if it's at the end of the match, it's huge. So I look for that moving forward and to see some of these guys like we had talked about even in the off season to get some minutes to play in these games. So nice transition here, Sam. Second leg of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, we do play Motagua at home on Wednesday, 6:30 match. So everyone show up a little bit earlier than what I was thinking it was 7:30. It's 6:30. But what kind of squad will we see? And this is, I think, where the transition comes in here. I do think that you'll probably see some younger guys and some reserve players, especially with the fact that we do go and play at Philly away. We've had all these matches in a shorter amount of time to start the season. You're trying to manage weather. You're trying to, mitigate, honestly, injuries as well. So in my opinion, you're going to see probably Noah Adnan. You already have a 3-goal lead, by the way, in this aggregate. So you just have to kind of see it out at home. Probably Powell, probably Adnan. I don't know, Sam. Do you keep Robinson there? Do you get Hidebe more minutes? That could be a toss-up. But then you might see Halsey out there. You might see the likes of Sharilla, get a start or something like that. I think that would be a good shout for this match.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you will see a lot of rotation. I think, speaking on last year against Cavalier at home, you saw a lot of rotation in that squad as well. And you saw guys like Isaiah Foster score a goal, right? Dotto scores a goal. So Alvis Powell actually scores the first goal in that game too. So guys that you wouldn't normally see, I think it's fun for them to be able to get that playing time in those games. I think you'll see that, right, for this second match against Managua. But Ryan, I wanted to ask you, out of those subs that we didn't use last game, Evan Laurel, Paul Walters, Brett Halsey, Steven Jimenez, Amir Dali, and Peter Mangione, out of those guys, who do you think has the best opportunity to either start or play?
Halsey, probably 1A, 1B is Leroux. I think Leroux probably is a good shout to come into and just see what he's about, get him some minutes too. You're going to see a lot of these guys get minutes, though, just to build confidence and to stay fit. But to play in a meaningful competition, especially if FCC 2 hasn't started yet, I think it's a good opportunity for them. The other kind of flip side of thinking about this is you're trying to integrate your squad with all these new players. Is this a good opportunity, even though it's a lesser opponent, doesn't mean as much, to kind of build some of that chemistry? That's kind of the other thought of it. So
yeah, you could possibly do that for the first half.
Yeah. Do you get 45 minutes from, maybe 5 or 6 starters and then flip to these guys in the second half? That's my only other thought.
Yeah, once again, like you said, just as much as you want the bench guys to stay fit and give them opportunities, you want your starting guys to stay fit and continue to build that chemistry, like you said, especially if you have a lot of new guys that you want in that starting lineup. I think you could see a chance for that. Definitely won't be as cold as last Saturday, right? And we're looking at highs of 62, so a little bit better weather for us going there.
Yeah, I'm pumped for that. TQL again, everyone come out and support, even if it isn't as big of a match in some ways, if you want to say it that. We still got to get a result. I still think this match we come out 2-0, I think is probably a good line. Honestly, probably is going to be more. I think. What was your thought on it?
One more, 3-0.
3-0. All right. So yeah, both wins, I think. And then I don't want to look too far ahead of it, but assuming that we, kind of push through in this aggregate, we would potentially play, from what I'm finding online, we would play Tigres, Sam, next Tuesday. So we would go from Philly away. Probably, do we just travel down to Mexico at that point?
I mean, you would have to. Yeah.
So
there's no chance you stop at home. What are you stopping for?
Right.
So
just this is where again, I don't envy Pat Noonan. I don't envy Albright for making these decisions on who do we play and what do we want to prioritize. And Philly won 4-2 against Orlando, which was a huge surprise to me
Yeah.
that they kind of pulled it out, especially the way that we just killed them, honestly, in preseason. So match day 2 against Philly away, what do we do? Do we see a solid lineup? I think obviously you're going to prioritize MLS, but then going into a Tigres possible matchup after that, like I think you just got to take it one match at a time, and we've seen that from Pat. We've seen that from the club a lot. To your question, we were wondering for those who are looking at injuries, Miazga's still out, Hagelin's still out, Santos and Dotto. Maybe I would say Dotto as a sub, maybe Santos as a sub. Miazga's probably a couple weeks off. I don't know exactly. I don't think anyone knows exactly. I think they honestly are still trying to figure it out as they go through it. They're just starting to integrate with the first team squad again. So I don't think you rush them back. If ideally at a situation, I would love to see those guys before we play Tigres. I would love to have a full strength if we're going to go up against them. But I don't think that's possible. I think you're going to see a lot of what we had against Red Bulls, and I think you might add Orishano to that.
I was about to say, you probably see a little bit more of Orishano up top because Pat was saying, he's not fit, right? Still dealing with the leg situation. So hopefully he'll be fit. May not play against Matagua or even, I don't think you'll see him against Matagua down at TQL, but hopefully for Philly, I think that would be great.
Yeah, and in this match, Sam, we're looking at Philly's offseason, and obviously they get a new manager. That's the big thing. Bradley Carnell comes in he got, I think, axed from St. Louis, and then came in and joins them. So they're going to have more of a pressing style, fast pace, like we had seen Carnell against us, early on in 2023 and lost 5-1. So maybe the way that we won this game in the preseason leaves a little bit of salt in their mouth, and they come out, especially at home and coming off of a 4-2 win. They're going to come out strong against us. They just picked up Indiana Vasilev from St. Louis, $1 million in GAM. I like your little fun fact. His name is Indiana and he's from Savannah, Georgia. I love that.
He's an imposter. He's an imposter. What do you?
It's funny to me with Philly, like every year, like they've always got a good, consistent squad, but like they don't spend a ton of money. Their club record transfer was in the offseason at $3.4 million for a Uruguayan forward, who I don't think was even a part of the roster for game one. So it's funny. I want to laugh about it. I think they're going to be a solid opposition. It's always hard playing at Philly. But if anyone's had Philly's number, it's Pat Noonan.
It's us. It's us. Yeah, I think obviously, like you said, Philly always plays hard. They always, regardless of the bag that they spend, a $3.4 million record transfer fee is in this day and age, right? The offseason that we saw is laughable, right? But they make the most of it every single year. They're in the hunt every year. And unfortunately for them, like you said, we do have their number. And I think it'll be a good game, but I'm going to go with a 2-1 prediction here.
I like it. I think we continue. Like we're just going to keep building. But I think it'll be a close one. I think 1-0 is another scoreline that you're probably going to see a lot of this year, 2-1, 1-0, like a lot of closer games early on in the season. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 1-0. I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up being like 3-0 or something crazy. Yeah. I think our defense is solid, and it's just honestly about
not even full strength, and it's solid.
True.
That's impressive.
You got to integrate all these guys together, and like Orishano hasn't played with Evander and hasn't played with Denkey like all together. Mm-hmm. And so if that is against Philly, like you have to find like how that's going to work. And we saw at moments they kind of lacked that cohesion against Red Bulls. And if they frustrate us, like we just have to keep our composure. And I think the defense is what kept us in that match and obviously allowed for us to go and win. But I think against Philly, especially playing in your first game away with all these pieces, I guess, okay, technically you played in Honduras, but I'm excited to see what we can do in 2 matches. I'm hoping we can get another 6 points out of this week, and I think we have a good chance to do so, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just the biggest thing like you said, you don't want to look too far ahead, but that turnaround against Tigres is going to be one to watch as far as roster. I'm very curious to see what Pat does.
Yeah, we need some guys to step up. If Denkey scores every match, I wouldn't be mad about it. But like we need some other guys. I know Buka had a big match on Wednesday too. So look for some of those guys to do so. I think hopefully you get Kubo kind of more integrated, Sam. That's maybe what I wanted to touch on a little bit is like the first two games he looked decent. He didn't look great. But I think they're still learning each other. There's some moments where they are running the opposite way and they're passing it a different way. You know what I mean? So they're going to work those things out. It's again just part of like even last year. Wouldn't you say early 2024 was the same way and trying to like but like the squad is still so talented enough that like they can get through, they can push and get results.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've talked about, the qualities there in the squad. We just need the chemistry part now. And that'll only build throughout the season.
Yeah, for sure. So let's close this out here. What's our trivia question and answer?
Yeah, trivia of the week was prior to Saturday's match breaking the record. What home match held the coldest temperature record in FC Cincinnati history? Ryan had said last year against Cavalier, and he threw out the number 34 degrees. Ryan, you hit everything on the head.
Whoa.
Everything on the head. It was 34 degrees on February 28th last year versus Cavalier, and FC Cincinnati did win the game 4-0.
I was there. It was my birthday. It was hard to forget that.
You were on the field for that one too, weren't you?
I was. Yeah. So yeah, cold match, but I'm hoping Wednesday will be a little bit warmer. It sounds like by all means it will be.
Yeah, obviously we're hoping for, like you said, 6 points, and hopefully a quick turnaround here with everything going on.
Yeah, for sure. We're here for it. We're going to bring you all the new news that is coming out. I mean, there's going to be stuff every single day, just like it was in the off season. It's really fun to be an FC Cincinnati supporter. There's constant stuff going on, a lot of content. But thanks again for tuning in. We'll have a new episode for you guys soon, and hopefully some new content rolling out here soon. So pay attention for that too. But we will see you next week. Thanks again, Sam.